Hey people, it's your midsole man, EDDBUD here. Today I'm looking at the second shoe from a salvo recently released by Asics. This is the pebax plated Sonicblast. A shoe I believe the brand are aiming at tempo runs and daily training, though that's not quite what I found out. How does it shape up? Let's find out. Thanks for joining me on the channel, always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you've not done so already and help me get to my dream of 100,000 subs. Also give this video a thumbs up, like, and drop us a comment for the algorithm. Every little helps. Dankeschön. This is a shoe that Asics have sent to me for review, but they're not vetting my views before my valued viewers get to see them, and they're not paying me. Stats on screen first. For the sample size of the shoe, we have about 46mm of stack in the heel and 38 up front for an 8mm drop, 245 grams or 8.6 ounces, and the shoe retails for 170 notes. So I've got a UK 11 or US 12 here. My measurements for that shoe are as follows. My pair weigh in about 308 grams or 10.9 ounces. So a tad heavier than something like the Zoomfly 6 from Nike. I've got about 12 centimeters of forefoot width here in the shoe and 9.7 in the heel, so a little bit narrower back here, but there's still loads of width up front in terms of surface area. I've actually got 49mm of heel stack. That is very, very common. I always have a little extra because I have a larger shoe, and about 41 up front, which makes for that 8mm drop. So it is very, very max cushioned, or max stack I should say. Now the Flight Foam Turbo squared layer that we've got on the top section of the midsole here is kind of unrecognizable from the stuff that we found in the MEGABLAST that I reviewed the other week. This feels denser and a bit tougher. I've got a softness reading of about 29 there, and then the section underneath is Flight Foam Blast Max, and that is about 32 on the Short A Drometer scale. The lower the number, the softer the material. About 28 is the average across all the shoes I've tried out on the channel. On the outsole we have standard Asics grip here, and that is coming in at around about Short A 60. We will start with the upper first. I found on my initial runs that the upper is actually one of the best bits of the shoe. The mesh here is flexible, it's very comfortable, decent tongue padding around here at the business end, partial gusseting on either side of the tongue, and I didn't get any tongue slide whatsoever. I do like the addition of these small lace loops just towards the final eyelets. Really helped to draw the shoe in, and I got a really great lockdown very easily. 16 miles of testing, and I found that the upper didn't give all that much really. It's pretty much what it is out the box. You won't have to stop and retighten your shoes. The laces are good, they don't have too much stretch to them. Again, that helps to get that great lockdown. I think the engineered mesh here that we've got in the Sonicblast is actually one of the best bits about the shoe. Really is a very comfortable upper. Fits my foot like a glove. If you are thinking of picking this shoe up, I would suggest it is true to size. I wouldn't bother going up or down a half size, no need. A thinner heel counter here. It's not certainly what I would call a training like shoe. There's not loads of excess padding here. Bit weird though that they didn't include those serrated laces that we've seen on some of the other sort of higher end Asics models recently. One issue I guess with this shoe is the colorway. It's not going to stay clean like this for long. 16 miles in and it's already got a beautiful patina to it. The dirt does seem to stick to that upper as well. It's quite tough to get rid of it. So yeah, running on dry roads out there, it still came back looking a bit jaded. Comfortable, no irritations over a half marathon distance on Sunday. I'll give it a 2.7 out of 3 for the upper. Functional at the very least. Midsole.
Midsole now.
So 2 foams here and a pebax plate. The top level is the Flight Foam Turbo squared stuff, and I've got to say, after reviewing the MEGABLAST from Asics the other day, I was expecting quite the ride, but that's not really what I got. This one is certainly anchored in that sort of firm category for me. You've got this Astro plate in between the 2 foams, and there's a lot of rigidity in this shoe. Sometimes you get a plated shoe and it does free up over time, but even after a half marathon in it, it really wasn't doing that. So a completely different shoe to the MEGABLAST. That is softer, it's bouncy. This is quite a controlled and stabilized ride. I'd say it's more in with shoes like the Zoomfly 6 from Nike, or perhaps the Boston 13 from Adidas. Does start to feel better at a slightly faster clip, but where Asics are mentioning that this is aimed at tempo running and like daily use, I can't really see myself using it on a daily basis. It's just perhaps not as energizing and fun to run in. Perhaps even limiting its potential use down to shorter runs, certainly not a daily trainer. And by the end of a half marathon, I just kind of felt that I wanted a little bit more cushion, something a little bit more forgiving. The plate is very rigid, like I said, and the foams do start to break in a tad over a few miles, but I wouldn't suggest it's drastically different than when I got it out of the box. At 308 grams as well, it's quite a bit heavier on foot than some of those other models that I mentioned, perhaps putting it more in line with something like the Hyperion Max 3 from Brooks. And I don't really see this as a sort of daily training partner to some of the Asics racing lineup. You've got like 50 grams difference between this and like the MEGABLAST, and that just ticks loads of boxes. And I just can't see too many people reaching for this for faster pace tempo runs. Certainly felt reasonable going up hills, actually. It's probably down to that pebax plate. Felt like I had a little bit of assistance there to charge up the hills, and there was some quite considerable elevation on our half marathon long run. I can perhaps see it working for heavier set runners who are after some more dense, consistent cushion underfoot, but for my lighter frame, the foams here, or at least the combination of them, are rigid and quite firm at best. I think the Flight Foam Blast Max layer even seems a little bit more forgiving, but that's way underneath the plate here. The plate, it appears to be very close to the heel, actually, in the rear of the shoe. It's very tough to determine the exact position, but yeah, it definitely seems like more of a rocker type shoe. Is this the same Flight Foam Turbo Squared as in the MEGABLAST? I can't believe it, to be honest. I'm sure there's a couple of different formulas, perhaps. The one in the MEGABLAST is much more bouncy and seems to have a lot more energy return. I mean, in hand, when you feel them, they're quite similar, but when you get them underfoot, it's a very different story. So I would suggest this is a better option if you're a heavier set runner after a plated training option. Certainly not a race shoe for me. I think I'd probably err more on the side of the Zoomfly 6 or Boston if I wanted a race shoe, and they're just a bit more enjoyable and 30 quid less. So just wish there was a slightly softer impact to these. Sonicblast is quite a rigid offering. I'll give it a 2 out of 3 for the midsole so far. Outsole wise, we have Asics grip here. It's certainly serviceable, though as you can see here, the majority of the rubber is certainly positioned in the forefoot area. That trampoline style section, similar to the Nova Blast, doesn't provide all that much bounce. There's a lot of exposed midsole foam here as well. I've had to pick thorns out of here. It seemed to get stuck in there. You can see the exposed plate as well. Plate seems quite thick, actually. Could have carved away some more perhaps of that exposed foam to reduce the heft of the shoe. Good to see some lateral heel rubber here that stretches right back into the rear section of this shoe, though it ends very abruptly here on the medial side. I got loads of discoloration here to that midsole foam already after 16 miles. I certainly would keep to road and pavement. I wouldn't take this shoe on any light trail, especially on gravel with that exposed plate. It's quite shallow ridges here, and the rubber depth's been kept minimal, I guess, to try and bring down the weight of the shoe somewhat. I'm going to give this a 2.5 out of 3 for the outsole. Another reason perhaps the shoe isn't all that versatile in the long run, no pun intended. Value wise, at 170 Earth credits here in the UK. It's a bit of a puzzle, this shoe. There's other race shoes and premium offerings out there that aren't all that much more expensive than the Sonicblast. So yeah, a bit of a weird shoe. I just can't figure it out. Certainly not a racer for me, and it's quite a niche option. It's kind of fitting very specific kind of boxes here. Direct comparisons are bound to be made with the Boston 13, the Zoomfly 6 and the Hyperion Max 3. I will come up with a sort of longer, more in-depth video with comparisons on those. I'd suggest that Brooks is probably the closest here though in terms of the feel underfoot. Similar stack and surface areas here. I think the Asics though has got a slightly better upper on it at least. That Zoomfly 6 and the Boston 13 do have lower stacks than the Sonicblast, but they're offering a softer, more fun ride out the box. You don't need to break those shoes in to get a nice forgiving ride from them. So quality is decent out the box, as you would expect from Asics. Certainly feels like a nice premium product at least, but I just find in this one really is lacking the versatility. Feels okay at like a easy to steady pace, but I think as the miles start to rack up, there's just a little bit too much control here, I suppose. When you've got like the Magic Speed and the Yagiri, you know, that S4 model that are right in around that price range, just feels like there's a load of different shoes that are kind of doing a similar thing. I appreciate that shoes break in over time, but this is quite dense, and I think it could have benefited perhaps from some implementation of that FF Leap material somewhere, rather than this tougher Flight Foam Turbo Squared formula. I'll give it a 2.3 out of 3 for value so far. If I've totaled the scores up correctly for the Asics Sonicblast, we've got a 9.5 out of 12. Are you thinking about picking up the Asics Sonicblast? Is it on your radar? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one down in the comments. Quick musical interlude for you. Today comes from It's Alive by the Ramones, a wonderful live album which has now been re-released. I didn't realise there's 4 discs, so there's 4 different performances to listen to. They're pretty much all the same though. The consistency across the delivery of the songs by the Ramones is really, really good. I think the Stoke-on-Trent performance though has a particular edge to it. Certainly one of my favourite tracks, Glad to See You Go, is delivered with a little bit more aggression. I absolutely love this album. It's one of my favourite live rock and roll performances ever. It's one of those where if I had access to the DeLorean, I would be travelling back to go and see that one live at the Rainbow Theatre in London, you know, a couple of years before my birth. But I would have to ensure obviously that I didn't interact with anybody, so that I didn't cause any issues in the time-space continuum, because then I wouldn't be here doing this review on the Asics Sonicblast and talking about the Ramones. Yeah, anyway, go and check it out, people. If you like rock and roll and you haven't heard this one, you've been missing out. It's Alive by the Ramones. Thanks for tuning in, always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and give this video a thumbs up like too. Drop us a comment for the algorithm. Don't forget to turn on the notifications as well for when the new videos launch. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you